Hi everyone, I'm Marlene Dodge and this is my EDL 850 School Laws Personal Introduction video. I've been teaching for 20 years. I moved to Southwest Kansas in 2010. I had lived in Sarasota, Florida, which was about 5 minutes from the #1 beach in the country. I traded that for ranch life and a whole lot of tumbleweeds. I've been working for High Plains Educational Cooperative. I have taught special education the majority of my teaching career. I work for the Ulysses 214 School District, which is the Ulysses Tigers. Kind of neat that I'm a Fort Hays Tiger as well. And I've been at the high school for the past 9 years. In my spare time, which I have very little of, I'm taking care of goats, horses, cows, dogs. We're at the height of our calving and kidding season, and so it's been pretty crazy. This makes for an extremely crazy semester, which leads me to the fact that I absolutely love traveling in the summers and getting away from it and going back to see my family in Florida. So on to the 3 levels of government control of public education. There's federal, state, and local. The legalities of it are the 10th Amendment had initially given the states jurisdiction over how they wanted to conduct their business with schools. However, because of groundbreaking lawsuits like Brown versus Board of Education, the 14th Amendment came into play and they were able to take back some of their control. And basically they had the right to make sure that there was equal protection of the laws with all the schools and for every person involved in schools. So what kinds of support do public schools receive at the local level? Schools receive funding from sales tax, property taxes, private donations. They rely very heavily on all of that. So if there's, out here in West Kansas, if there's a big issue about needing to build an addition onto a school or something along the lines that's really huge, a lot of times it becomes a bond issue, and then the school board has to propose it to the county, and the county has to vote on it. The city votes whether or not they want to go ahead and increase their property taxes in order to help fund the school on whatever venture that they're asking for. The school board is they pretty much oversee everything at the local level. They make a lot of the big decisions for the schools. They can tell us what kind of curriculum they want to see us teaching in the schools. So the school board is a pretty heavy weight on our local level. So for the support at the state level, states provide slightly less than half of a school's operating cost. So they provide that through state taxes, sales tax. Some states have a state lottery, but it doesn't really help a whole lot because all it does is most of the time it just allows the state to shift money in other places, and it may not even be education. So even if there is a state lottery, it really doesn't increase the amount of money. Some states do use it for some good, and they go ahead and put it into scholarship opportunities for students. Another thing that states do is they adopt federally funded programs and grants. Common Core was one of them. By adopting Common Core in our state, we were able to get the Race to the Top grant. And we get in on any kind of federal funds that are attached with adopting a federally funded program. They also can create additional education standards for non-core subjects. So that's something else that one of the many things that the state level does to support public schools. Okay, the federal level, kind of a big one. They ensure no student is denied the right to equal education opportunities. So they have created a whole bunch of laws, a whole bunch of acts that make sure that students are treated equally and students are allowed to have an education regardless of any kind of disability, any kind of income level. Discrimination is absolutely ruled out based under all these laws that the federal level has put forth. They also provide funding for students living in poverty and those with disabilities and students with high needs. So there is funding for programs like that, especially with special education. There's a lot of funding where they help with areas of need. They support educational research and development to help with policy and practice at state and local levels. Based on the need in the country, they can point us in a direction and let us know what kind of professional development is needed to help improve performance in schools overall. And they support continuous improvement of state and local education systems. What kinds of support do public schools receive at the federal level? Continuing on with this, the funding part of this, about 10% of funding is what most schools can receive from the federal government, but it isn't without its strings attached. Again, one of the heavy accountability type things they did was testing to make sure that schools were performing at a certain level. If they were not, then a lot of that funding was taken away. There were a lot of conditions that were placed on schools to help them try and improve. Again, adoption of Common Core standards was another one. If schools did not adopt the Common Core curriculum, they weren't eligible for that federal funding. Also, ESSA, which was formerly ESA, ESEA, under those guidelines, there's Title 1, 2, 3, Title 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And all of those have different programs that are attached to it and different money for various groups of students. So who's in charge of all these various levels regarding education? So at the Federal Department of Education, we have the Secretary of Education, which is Betsy DeVoe. Very high paid position. She's appointed by the president and she has to be confirmed by the Senate, which was a whole lot of controversy surrounding her confirmation. Also at the state level, we have the Kansas State Department of Education. The Commissioner of Education is Dr. Randy Watson. Again, high paid position, appointed. The local school board, we have school board members. Now, some school boards, they can be volunteer. Some of them are paid positions. Same situation, some are elected and some are appointed. But most school boards, they are elected. And then again, the taxpayers are also considered part of your local level. And I think a lot of that goes back to when I was talking about the bond issues. So they do have a lot of say, your taxpayers, in the big decisions that a school district may need to make. Which of the three levels of government have the most influence over Component 6? I think with each one of these, I thought that it was a different level. Component 6.1 seemed to fit the local level the most. Evaluate, develop, implement management, communication technology, the school level governance and operation systems that support each student's learning needs and promote the mission and vision of a school. Most of that stuff is done on a local level, if not the majority of it. Component 6.2, evaluate, develop, advocate for a data-informed and equitable resourcing plan that supports schools' improvement in student development. I think more of that is on a state level. I do think some of that is done on a local level, but I think the majority of Component 6.2 is a state level. And then Component 6.3, I feel like that is definitely a federal level component to evaluate, communicate about, implement laws, rights, policies, regulations to promote student and adult success and well-being. And I think the federal level is where it governs a lot of our equality in schools. How does all this support and educational success and well-being of each student and adult affect things? Well, on the federal level, again, it's to promote student achievement and preparation for global competitiveness by fostering educational excellence and ensuring equal access. I think, again, that equality is the big part about the federal level and making sure that people are all given the right to education that is valuable and an education that is positive for them. State level, I took the Kansas state level motto, their mission, which was prepare Kansas students for lifelong success through rigorous quality academic instruction, career training, character development, according to each student's gifts and talents. And their vision is to lead the world in success of each student. So again, I think on a state level, they're going to focus on a lot of that academic instruction and the curriculum and making sure that all students, again, are given an opportunity to excel. And then our local level, I went ahead and I took our mission statement that was on our USD 214 Board of Education page. It was recognizing that diversity comes in many forms and is the stronghold of society. 214 stands committed to create an inclusive environment where all students and staff feel safe, important, and inspired. ULIS Public Schools cultivate a learning community in which all students engage in learning, strive for excellence, and are supported to achieve their fullest potential. I think it's really important that they included the diversity statement because in Southwest Kansas, we are very diverse. And I think it's really important that we've got an inclusive type atmosphere within our school. Again, the equality and making staff and students all feel safe and important and valued. So here are my references that I used throughout this slideshow. I have a few pages of references. I did include the Kansas State Department of Education as well. And the very last slide has my USD 214 Board of Education goals. So thank you. I look forward to learning with everybody. Have a great semester.